really excited that our next guest is joining us, who is Lewis Davis, who's the state director of AARP DC. But before we bring Lewis on, let's look at this short video.
The district's June 4th primary election to determine who will be on the ballot in November is quickly approaching. And AARP DC wants to make sure you are prepared to vote and know where the candidates stand on issues you told us were most important. AARP is a nonpartisan organization, does not operate a political action committee, and does not endorse candidates. We focus on the issues that are most important to you and your family. Using AARP research and survey data, AARP DC created a questionnaire for all the candidates listed on the primary ballot to share with you their vision for the issues you told us matter most. They include transportation, housing, accessing nutritious foods, and reducing health disparities. Look through the candidates' responses and use that information to inform your vote when you cast your ballot on or before June 4th of 2024.
It's my pleasure now to bring on Lewis Davis, the state director of AARP. Lewis, I'm going to nominate you for an Emmy for one of the best political campaign commercials I've seen so far this year.
One of the best non-political political.
I love it. I mean, that's what we ought to be talking about. People make their choices in their households or, you know, wherever, but, you know, our choice is that folks go out and vote. So I want to thank you so very much for joining us. Sure. And before we get into the topic, I just want to ask you very briefly, because I still think we need to dispel the belief that AARP is only for a certain age group. If a person, tell us who can be a member of AARP and AARP DC?
So let me dispel the myth that an old myth that you have to be 60 and older. Boy, that one's more than 20 years old. Then the next one was that you have to be 50 and older, when the truth today is you have to be a whopping 18 and older. You heard it right. A 19-year-old, a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old, a 37-year-old, a 41-year-old can join AARP. You just go to, we don't sell memberships or promote memberships in the state offices. Anyone curious about what an AARP membership is can just visit aarp.org and learn all about it. But yeah, it's that simple. It's one of the cheapest, most inexpensive memberships too on the planet, and it's less than $20 a year, not a month, but a year, and with tremendous discount benefits. But more importantly, I think for the work we do here in the District of Columbia and around the state offices around the country, the membership dues help to fuel what AARP is most about, and that is helping people, particularly people 50 and older, in terms of advocacy, live their best lives and their families, which would include, again, those 18-year-olds and on up, live their best lives through the advocacy and outreach work that we do around the country. So it fuels, it's the gasoline that keeps us going to fight the fight that we fight to help people live their best lives at any age.
Well, for those who I know are members of AARP and very active across the city, that fuel has created a very strong organization. And I think that strength also goes to what we're facing right now, which is the June 4th primary in the District of Columbia. And we're going to talk about the voter's guide that you all produced in a few minutes. But I wanted to start off really with, as we said, the mechanics of voting in this primary. And so I know that there's some general things that you all are informing your members and others about, but I want to specifically kind of key in on those who are elderly or may have some disability in getting to the polls or voting. What are some of the things that you would recommend or suggest that people should know?
Sure. The first thing I'll recommend is to go to the experts themselves, and that's the good folk at the DC Board of Elections. If we were a state like all the rest in the country, we would be near the top, certainly in the top 5 of the easiest and most efficient places to vote in the country. The DC Board of Elections does an excellent job with making the ease with which one can vote They couldn't make it any easier. Let's put it that way. Let me give you a telephone number. If you could write this down, and I'll give you an email address for the Board of Elections. And the telephone number is 202-727-2525. Again, it's 202-727-2525. Their email address is www.org, www.dcboe, that's Board of Elections, BOE.org. If you're inclined to go online, go there, because there's a wide assortment of information there about all of the variety of ways and extra things they do to make it easy to vote. But let me just name what I know off the top. And I was a precinct captain during the pandemic in 2020. So I know there's curbside voting. Right, you can, if you have a disability that prevents you from getting up out of your car, but you're able to drive to a voting place, they will come out to your car to take your ballot through the window. I mean, through your door window. How about that? We AARP lobbied 4 years ago and got the Board of Elections to visit assisted living facilities, and so they now go to assisted living facilities to collect ballots from assisted living facilities. The voting boxes are all around the District of Columbia. For several elections now, you can vote in any place you live in the District of Columbia, in any place in the District of Columbia. So if you live in Ward 8 and you happen to be at the hair salon in Ward 4, and you have your ballot with you, you can drop your ballot at a ballot box in Ward 4, even though you live in Ward 8. Can't get any easier than that. But if you have a particular situation, I would call the DC Board of Elections again at 202-727-2525. Tell them what your particular situation is. You can vote early. If early voting has already started, I voted nearly 2 weeks ago. So the election cycle now is long. The 4th is the last day you can vote. It's not the first day you can vote. It's the last day you can vote. The boxes are up and around at every public library all around the District of Columbia, and you can vote in any one of them. Plus, you can mail in your ballot as well.
I'm one of those people, Louis, who just loves to vote on election day. But when you put it that I'm the last one to vote, I'm thinking a little differently about that. I hadn't heard it put that way before. So I see why we have early and the last day. But I think that's a good point for people to remember that June 4th is election day, but it's the last day to vote. So that commercial or that video we saw a little while ago really focused in on the voter's guide that you all recently, that AARP DC recently produced. And it's really exciting. It's good information. But tell us, when did you all decide to do this? How did you, again, repeat how you came up with the questions that are being asked in this guide, and what the participation was like for the candidates who are running?
So if we do anything at AARP, is we listen to our members and others here in the District of Columbia and around the country, but here in DC, who are 50 and older, and the people in their lives. So we do surveys, questionnaires all the time. So we began doing these surveys last year and into the beginning of this year. From the responses we got back about what people care most about, and in those surveys, we generated a questionnaire to go to the candidates across all open seats or seats up for election in the DC primary. Those candidates numbered at that time 20. It started out being more, but these are the candidates who got approved by BOE. They had the proper number of signatures and the like. So we waited until the Board of Elections verified who the candidates were. They numbered 20, and that's across the ward races in 2, 4, 7, and 8, plus one at-large seat. We didn't. These were just the council seats. This was not the state reps and shadow senators. And 17 of the 20 responded. If there was an 18th or 19th or 20th who meant to, well, we don't know. But we got 17. We were happy with that. That's better than the 75% response rate. The questions and the top issues or areas of concern we got back from our survey were transportation, housing, access to nutritious foods, and health disparities. And so there was a question we built that we put out in our survey that we tweaked a little bit to then change to make into a question for the candidates. And so I can give you an example.
Yeah, I was going to ask for that. Yeah.
So the transportation question was, in 2022, 85% of DC residents 45 and older said that staying in your own home as you get older was of importance to them. What policies do you support to protect older district residents and their ability to safely age in a place of their choosing? Was the housing question. And then the candidates had space of 500 characters to answer for each of the questions, and one for each of the topical areas I mentioned a moment ago. And we in no way edited it. We didn't correct typos or bad grammar. We told them that up front. So every candidate got the exact same email from me saying you have an invitation, click this link, and we gave them a due date to respond. And we cut them at 500 characters, not 500 words, but 500 characters. So you can visit this and see this by going to AARP or www.aarp.org/DC primary. That's
Okay.
aarp.org/DC primary, DC primary altogether. And it'll pull down the full voter guide that you just saw the flash up there on the screen. You'll see all the candidates' answers when you click on the ward race. You click on the race. If you click on Ward 2, there's no race in Ward 1. Ward 2, it'll pull up all the candidates running in Ward 2 who responded. Same for 7, 8, and the at-large seat.
I had a chance to go through that yesterday, and again, I'm going to go through because it's a really well done site, and I think it's very easy to get through for anybody who might be wanting to visit it online. There are no printed copies of this, right?
No, they're not.
Okay.
We made it available digitally, and yeah.
So anybody that wants to access it, there's no, you don't have to be an AARP member to read it. Just go to the site.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is a little off, sort of our script here, Louis. But I just want to ask, because the question that you raised about, older people living in, staying in place is a critical issue also of AARP. I mean, like you said, that question came from your membership. But do you track that? Does AARP, let's say if a candidate says, I'm going to do blah, 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 and they actually, are successful in the election, how do you track that information or their progress or their legislation or anything to, it's almost like a report card. Does AARP do that?
Yeah. So we do.
Okay.
Here in the District of Columbia.
I should say AARP DC, yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, here in the District of Columbia, because it's 53 state offices.
Exactly.
But here in my office, we do. And,
Okay.
and that's a great segue. I didn't know you were going to go there, but to your listeners, as a reminder that after you vote, to me personally and professionally, that's the beginning of your participation in our democracy, small d, not the end. And I wish more people knew that, because in Denise's question was an answer that it's up to every individual voter to follow and make sure that the candidates you vote for, in fact, things they sold you on, right? Every candidate will tell you some things, a lot of times things that they know you want to hear. And there's nothing wrong with that if the thing that you hear is the thing that you think will make your life better. But then if you just trust and put all the faith that they'll do the good thing and you vote and then you go off to the races and fishing and you don't keep track of whether or not that thing they promised actually materializes, well, then you haven't fully participated in the democratic process against small d, because you have to help keep them accountable. And it doesn't mean that they're always nefarious in what they do, but they have a lot of competing interests coming at them. So that thing that they maybe meant to do that made you vote for them, they need your help to keep them honest on that thing. Maybe just to remember that they said they would do that thing. And you do that in the same way that we do. We monitor what the council does, whatever and however they're in session. We monitor the budget every year that the mayor produces every year, and that the council then responds to, which is happening right now. And it's been said, and still true, that a budget is a set of policies in numbers. So a budget is a set of policies put in numbers. So you'll see whether that candidate had as your priority the issue they promised they would do when they got your vote. You have to watch and help them to keep their word.
So for those who just really want to see the progress, maybe they haven't been paying as close attention, but can they depend or go to a place on AARP's website to see kind of how this candidate is progressing in the key areas that AARP members thought were important?
They can. So
Okay.
we'll be after the general election. We had 17 candidates respond. There's a bunch of people running for a much smaller number of seats. We'll be watching the candidates on these questions that are responses. You can help us to do that by being some of our eyes and ears and reaching out to our office at aarp.org/DC. I'm easy to find. You can reach out to me individually and say, hey, Lewis, candidate X said they would do Y and they didn't. They did D, and I wanted them to do C. Yeah, it's we're all in this together, and that's what Democracy Small D is. It's a participatory sport, not a spectator sport.
Well, that is a great note to close on. I want to thank you for being with us, Lewis Davis, AARP DC State Director. And we're going to put up one more time how folks can get a copy or read the voter's guide. I want to thank you for sponsoring the segment as well. And we look forward to seeing you on the other side. I know we're going to have this conversation before we roll up to the general election in November.
Happy to be here anytime.
All righty. Thank you so much.